Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today's Couch Conversations episode is going to be a mix of many things because 6 years ago today, I became a PK, otherwise known as Pastor's Kid. We're going to talk about this 6-year journey right after the intro. So when it is my father's pastoral anniversary, he is highlighted the most simply because, he's the pastor, duh. But today I am not going to be talking about my dad in regards to his anniversary because I've already done that on my social media platforms and I've already done my honorary things for my dad this weekend for his anniversary. Although his pastoral anniversary is to celebrate him and I am very proud of the fact that he has made it this far, I think it is also just as important for people to understand, what ministry is like for PKs because our story does not get told enough and often. And that's what this vlog is for because honestly, at this point, PKs deserve an appreciation service as well. Being a PK takes a different kind of mental strength. When I became a PK, there were a lot of expectations placed on me, and it was unbelievable at first to think that the title or position of my father is, the reason why I should or shouldn't be doing this or that. And I remember being in the younger class at church, and I was told that I should have an answer or just know a scripture or a Bible verse because my dad's the pastor and I live with the preacher. And so, I'm walking to my car and going home and I'm thinking like, okay, so this is church now? Like, just being a church kid, church was everything. But when I became a PK, a pastor's kid, the way that I viewed church and ministry was severely altered. And boy, when I say I saw a different side of church that I did not know, I could not stand. I hate speaking negatively about something that everyone just expects to be so positive. Like, that's the expectation. Like, you come to church because it's designed to be the place where people gather for congregational worship to be uplifted. And growing up, I enjoy church. I love church and I still do. Because of the atmosphere, the community, the congregational aspect, the singing, all of that. Church was churching. But then when I became a PK, I saw the behind the scenes of what people actually look like in church behind them being engaged in praise and worship and talking back to the preacher during the sermon. I got to see heart posture, motives, intentions, which is how I was able to quickly filter between who I can and can't trust. Another thing about being a PK is that it felt like I was just non-existent, whatsoever. I would hear people ask my parents, how they were doing, and yet I'm sitting in the corner so I was immediately used to being put last. But the truth of the matter is that we are just as important as our parents, and we are not more than what we were before we were PKs. If people are placing expectations on us because of a title, at this point, it's time for a deliverance service because these stereotypes drive me insane. So, I spent the first 5 years of being a PK working through micromanagement and manipulation, high expectations, being forgotten, and all of the above. And all of that has a lot to do with why I watch House of Hope Atlanta now, because they are that outside safe space for me to enjoy church without being on duty and always being involved in making sure that services go smoothly. Listen here, baby. Kurt Franklin and God's Property was not kidding when they said, I've gone through the fire and I've been through the flood. I've been broken into pieces, seen lightning flashing from above. Baby, woo! That song hit different when you get beat up, man. Last year and this year, this past year, of being a PK has been more chill because I feel like there's almost nothing to prove because people have sort of figured me out by now. And people test me to a certain point where, my try Jesus and not me attitude shows up, and they don't like that, okay? So after 3.5 years of virtual church, I kind of gained credibility by becoming the church's media director. And I feel like God let the pandemic happen to kind of draw that line. And they obviously can't see what I'm doing, but they know that I'm doing something, and that something is what leads them and is the reason why they see service every week, which is why all of the chit chat went down. Everyone caught on to the consistency And that eliminated room for people to be petty because I was actually doing something productive. I don't mean it disrespectfully, but this is honestly my personal experience. You know, being a PK has had its challenges, such as micromanagement, sharing my parents and grandparents and all that. But it has also, in a way, been rewarding. Ministry is my family's legacy. I am third generation. Watching my father take on this legacy from his parents is one of the most special things that I have ever witnessed. My dad is literally the best to ever do it, and watching him do what he does as a pastor makes me so proud. During COVID, he was preaching every single week. And so for the past 3.5 years, the preparation, the consideration, the thoughtfulness, the study that he puts into each sermon is what makes it a masterpiece every single time. My father was also a PK as well, so he understands everything that I just mentioned earlier about being forgotten and the high expectations and the micromanagement. And honestly, he's been through worse than me. Good and the bad all mixed together. There's some services that I'm excited for, and there's other times where I'm depleted and I really don't feel like being in anything or being involved in anything church related. But through it all, God has sustained me through the highs and lows of this journey. And I also just want to clarify and say that I'm not sharing my struggles to point fingers or call out specific people or anything like that. But I simply share my various journeys with y'all because people like me who are church kids and PKs gravitate towards transparency because we want to relate to someone with our similar background. I didn't have the luxury of having other PKs outside my father to support me. And so that was very rough. And I don't want that to be the case for other PKs. And I want to change the narrative for PKs and for church people and how they view us. So you're looking at someone who has had to look at people that hate you and your parents. You're looking at someone who has had to be all smiles in public, but slam the door in private and break down. You're looking at someone who is overcoming and has overcome the system of expectations that has nothing to do with what God requires of you. So when y'all come up with a, appreciation service or appreciation day for PKs, let me know so I can come enjoy that. The past 6 years have been a wild ride, but in all honesty, God has been getting the glory out of this story, and it's still being written because this is just chapter 6. That is my PK journey. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I love y'all so much. Happy Saturday.